So, it's happening again. Yes, free agency wave 2 starts on June 1st, when we're going to see around 10 to 15 players cut, and the free agent market is going to light up like lights in the sky, and everyone's going to get excited again because there are more free agents to talk about and more free agents to pick up. The facts are the facts right now. Facts are the facts at this moment right now. The draft happened, and there are certain positions Cincinnati didn't take and other teams did not take. And now what they're doing is they're going to OTAs, looking at their rosters, looking at their stuff and say, okay, here's where we want to improve. Here's what we want to sign. Here's who we want to get, right? And there's a lot of teams out there who are still saying, even after the draft, right tackle is the position we want. Left tackle, right tackle, whatever the case. Now, the Jets, there was a trade that was going to happen on draft night with the Jets, and then another trade that could have happened with the Jags. Based on what I understand, both of them fell through because Cincinnati wanted too much for Jonah Williams. They still wanted a first or second round pick, and no team out there, even NFL executives who came out and said, we're not giving a first or second round pick for him, and Cincinnati is standing their ground saying, well, then we're not going to trade him. So, if you go back to the draft, the Steelers jumped the Jets and actually took Broderick Jones when the Jets were probably going to take Broderick Jones. So, they're still in the market for a tackle. Then you have the Bears just took Peter Sherwansky, I want to say. They took one of the tackles in the draft, so they're probably not out of the market, but definitely they're not interested in the left tackle. They're more interested in the right tackle. And then you go down the list there, some other teams, the Jags took a tackle, but they could also still be interested in a tackle, and then so on and so on. So as free agency happens, and it's starting to come up again with free agency wave 2, trades are going to start happening because there are some free agents that are tackle-wise who are going to hit free agency, and not all of them are qualified starters to be starting in, on an NFL team. Some of them are good backups with depth pieces, but not every single player is a starter caliber player. Now, according to this article, by the way, it's coming from Bleacher Report. There's multiple sources talking about this, but it does go ahead and highlight that the Cincinnati Bengals are engaging in trade discussions centered around Jonah Williams as the interest heats up. According to the NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, Cincinnati Bengals signed Orlando Brown, which of course caused this whole Jonah Williams wanting to be traded scenario. And why did they do that? Because Jonah was a left tackle for the last 3 seasons, and he allowed the NFL high 12 sacks last season. That's why. And then we have a tweet right here by Jason who says, Jonah Williams should always have been right tackle at best. Bengals are now realizing that. In reality, he should have been right tackle. He did deal with injuries his whole entire career, so I'm not going to completely trash on him and say, oh yeah, he was trash, he's garbage, he's awful. No, he has dealt with a lot of injuries, but realistically, he probably also should have always been right tackle. What would a trade for Jonah Williams look like then? Because with all this trade talk, right, if Cincinnati's sitting back and saying, as I'm saying right now, we're not interested in anything but a first or second round pick, and you know what? If we don't get that, we'll let him walk at the end of this season, right? So, what can be done then? What's going to happen? Is that the end of the video? Is that the end of the story? No. Now what I think is going to happen is there's no more trade talks about picks. Picks are done. Because clearly, if you're an NFL executive out there and you're contacting the Bengals about Jonah Williams, you're not going to get anywhere by talking about trading for picks. So now you got to trade for a player. So now it's got to be a player-for-player trade. I know the ESPN created the whole mock trade back in a couple months ago where they said that they were going to trade Beckham, I think his name Becton, their right tackle who has not played in like 6 seasons, over to Cincinnati for Jonah Williams on a 1v1 trade. And that was their mock. That trade would have been awful for Cincinnati. They would not have done that. But what they might do is a trade I talked about yesterday, which could be Isaiah Simmons trade Jonah for Isaiah, straight up 1v1 trade. Keep in mind, again, Isaiah, former first-round pick. Jonah, former first-round pick. So as long as they value that said player as a first-round pick, first or second-round pick, they might end up doing it. There's nothing saying they wouldn't go ahead and trade a player. Because again, keep in mind, they value Jonah right now, his value at like a 7 out of 10. They might say, okay, well, we value 7 out of 10. Your player's an 8 out of 10 according to our value. Duh, we're going to just trade you equally straight up. Or they could trade for other players. There's a lot of players now, especially as we close on the season, who teams are declining their fifth-year options. Another player is Baltimore Ravens linebacker Patrick Queen. Ravens decline his fifth-year option. Ravens also do need a right tackle. Morgan Moses is a starting right tackle, and he's really not that great. Would they trade in the division? To be honest, this would be perfect for Cincinnati. You got Jonah, who really isn't that great, right? Trade him in division to Baltimore. Baltimore gets sacked more, right? Lamar gets destroyed more. Cincinnati wins in the end. Hendrickson now gets to destroy Jonah every single game, twice a year, and get after Lamar Jackson. Now, I think Jonah, by the way, just a side note here, he will look so much better in Baltimore than he would in Cincinnati. All offensive linemen who play for Lamar are going to look better than playing for Joe Burrow. The reason why is because with Joe Burrow, he's not as mobile, so he sits back there. He's stationary. He can still run, but he's more of a stationary quarterback, so you have to block longer. When it comes to Lamar Jackson, because like when he hikes the ball, he rolls out to the right, rolls out to the left, runs around like a freaking 3-year-old child. You don't have to block as long when you're an offensive lineman. So Jonah would look a lot better, by the way, just a side note, in Baltimore than he would in Cincinnati. But that's another trade you could do. Maybe you trade Jonah straight up for Patrick Queen. Patrick Queen, based on what I understand, is not happy that Baltimore did not pick up his fifth-year option. He is very upset with that. And with them drafting a linebacker in the third round, it's clear Patrick's done. So he could have a chip on his shoulder. Imagine trading Jonah Williams for Patrick Queen, right? Get Patrick Queen on that 1-year contract, maybe, let's say 1-2-year contract. And, not his 1-year contract. Pick up his fifth-year option, which is fully guaranteed, but it's going to be less money than Jonah Williams, right? Get him all ticked off, angry, upset, just smashing, saying, you know what, Baltimore? You guys got rid of me? I'm going to prove it to you. You have a player now who has a chip on his shoulder and wants nothing more than Baltimore's demise. Is that not a Houday Nation member? I'm just saying. But there's other players, too, that are going to, they're going to decline fifth-year options on and possibly could be picked up by Cincinnati if you do a trade, Jonah, for that said player. Whoever it is, again, keep in mind, and actually, my bad, if you trade for Jonah right now, you don't have to pick up his fifth-year option for Patrick Queen. You can if you want, but you get the rookie contract fourth year right now. So you want to get him in his second. He's a former second-round pick, so it's probably like $3 or $4 million. You get him one, $3 or $4 million, and you have a guy who has a chip on his shoulder who wants to absolutely destroy Baltimore. I like the idea, but other than that, other than Jonah Williams, other than Patrick Queen, Isaiah Simmons, you could trade for another offensive lineman. You could trade for a running back if you really wanted to. I mean, you have to really far-fetch this one. But if Chargers, Austin Eckler, for Jonah Williams. Use that $12.6 million to pay Austin Eckler a new salary. There's a lot of different scenarios here, but again, I do not think picks will no longer be on the table. I think now it will 1000% be straight up player for player. That's it. I don't think they're doing picks anymore, because picks at this point are just going to become a teeterous back and forth. It's not happening. We don't like this. We don't like this. We want this. We want that. And it's just going to cause so much headache. I don't think either side is going to really go for it, because Cincinnati is just going to sit there and say, we want a first or second round pick. And then the other team is going to say, well, we want him for a third or fourth round. And you're just going to go back and forth. And Cincy's just going to sit there and say, we told you what we wanted for him. You're wasting your time talking. So player for player, I think, is probably the best scenario possible. Just get a player, give up a player, done. Jonah, gone. $12.6 million, gone. we get somebody else, maybe a tackle, running back, linebacker, whoever. It works out. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.